Hey all, Rob here. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when future videos are out. And in this video, I'm going to talk about cartoons in particular, then get into some TV series and movies. You know, a narrative that the media has been trying to frame the past couple of years in particular is women empowerment, how they're not treated as the equal of men, and women's rights. And all of this is, and representation, a big one. And I'm going to talk about representation here in a bit, but all of this stuff is BS. Okay? You have to go to other economists who go about equal pay, and you will find that the women and men are paid equal. And it's like, first of all, women go time off, maternity leave, and they're not working. Guess who works the overtime? Guess who's willing to work the Saturday shift, the Sunday shift? Guess who's putting in the extra hours or having a second job? Many times it's men. So where does the extra income go? It's because the men chose to work longer, be there when the boss called. And don't forget, it's the men who usually know the stock market better. Guess who's investing in the stock market usually? Men. That's a big way to get a fortune. If you invest right into stocks or you buy real estate and flip it, men do this the majority of the time. That's just real world talk. And so when you complain about equal pay, especially in Hollywood, you know, it's like, shut up. You chose to do the job. I heard, what was it, Bryce Dallas Howard talking about her Jurassic Park pay, how it wasn't equal. Shut up. You chose the job. You chose to get paid. You knew what the contract was before you signed it. So don't complain after the fact, once you signed the contract. And I don't know how much she got paid for that Jurassic Park stuff, but if you got paid high 5 figures, she probably got paid 6 figures. Shut up. You paid 6 figures or more for one movie? Yeah. You don't live in the real world of us 9-to-5 people. You're not an ordinary person if you're making Hollywood movies and you're getting up there into paychecks. So be quiet. You don't know the struggles of the common man and the common woman, okay? You Hollywood elitists. You're the last people who should talk. Celebrities, Hollywood stars, music stars. You're the last people who should talk about the struggles of the average man and the average woman in real life. And so equal rights, right? Especially Hollywood's a bunch of BS. Name me the rights that women don't have in this country. You have the right to vote. You have the right to an education. You have a right to live where you want. But they don't talk about the outrages in other countries where the women are treated as second-hand citizens in the Mideast countries, where the men rule over the women in the Middle East countries, where the women are treated subservient, we're denied education, denied voting, and all this other stuff. That's where the real struggle is. But you see, all these feminists and women who talk in America about how bad women have it in America, they don't want to talk about the struggles of the Mideast women. They don't want to fight for the struggles of the Mideast women. Oh, you can't talk about that, huh? They don't want to talk about it. They talk about the low-hanging fruit of American women. How they don't get equal pay, supposedly. You have more freedom, more enjoyment of life, and more possibility in this country than you have in many other countries in the world if you're a woman. It's the narrative the media is framing that, oh, the women are treated as, they don't have equal rights and they're second hand. And that's not the case in America. It's not the case now. It is the case in other countries like the Mideast, but they're not going to say anything about that. It's a scam. And when I think about the media, and that's why I'm talking here, cartoons, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. When you talk about the cartoons that you grew up on, or we grew up on, many people, guess what? Women were well represented And you didn't need the phony outrage of the past few years to make an issue out of something that was not an issue to begin with. That is what they like to do, to divide you, divide and conquer by pitting one side against another. We had no issue with women representation until they made it an issue to try and divide us by making something that is not an issue an issue. And somewhere along this food chain, someone is getting paid for this division and what they're doing in the media. So here we go. Representation, which was never an issue growing up and never a topic until they made it an issue. Let's go to the cartoons and stuff we watched, okay? G.I. Joe, 1980s cartoon. You had key characters in Scarlet, Lady J, occasionally CoverGirl, and for the bad guys on Cobra, the Baroness. So all key players, okay? Thundercats. Who didn't like Chitara? She was an equal of all the men, and she had one of the best powers, and it was represented well in Thundercats. The Transformers. When they went to the future after the movie, you had Aussie. And she wasn't a character in the original early cartoons when they were on Earth, but it was after the movie. Aussie was a popular character in the Transformers. When you look at the Marvel, we'll go to the cartoons, not the comic books right now. In the cartoons of the 1990s, you had Jean Grey, Storm, Rogue, and Jubilee as key players in the X-Men cartoon. You had Mary Jane as a key player in the Spidey cartoon in the 1990s, along with the Black Cat. In the Fantastic Four, you always had the Invisible Woman as an equal member of the Fantastic Four in any cartoon representation. In Batman, you've had Catwoman, sometimes an ally, sometimes a villain. In Superman, you've always had Lois Lane as a strong counterpart. In the Hulk, if you've had any cartoon appearances in the movies, you've had Betty Ross as the woman for Bruce Banner. The Fantastic Four also had, going back to Fantastic Four a bit, you had strong characters in Alicia Masters and Crystal and Medusa, who was also part of the Inhumans. In the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe 1980s cartoon, the Sorceress was one of the key players in that cartoon, as well as Evil Lynn plus Teela. So you had like three main characters there. Plus you had She-Ra as well, who was the sister of He-Man. And in that Masters of the Universe cartoon, Evil Lynn, Sorceress, and Teela were just in a lot of episodes. They did a lot of stories around these characters that involved them somehow. Talking about TV, right? Remember Three's Company, the original? 2 out of the 3 in Three's Company were women. You had Gilligan's Island. You had Ginger and Marianne, Gilligan's Island, as key characters. The Brady Bunch. You had 3 of the girls as key characters who were equal. I guess you had 3 boys. I Dream of Jeannie. Jeannie is the headline of that series. Or Bewitched. The Dukes of Hazzard, Daisy Duke, key character in that series. And you look at some movies from the past. Who was the key character in the Alien movies? It was the Sigourney Weaver character. Star Wars. Princess Leia was a main character, equal to the men, and as a key character in the original trilogy. In the original Star Trek, yeah, you had Uhura. But I like Star Trek The Next Generation. And you had the main characters in Star Trek The Next Generation were like Deanna Troi and Beverly Crusher was like two of the main women characters in that series. And in these horror 1980s, 1990s movies, guess who's the main character if a character survives? It's usually one woman as like the sole survivor of the entire slasher movie. And it was also the main character they built around, because, you know, they always had to have that main character as a talking point throughout the plot of those movies. Because if she wasn't the surviving character, it would matter less if you didn't build around them in the movie. So when it's like, when they cry about, oh, women representation in movies now, etc., it's like, what are you talking about? You have been well represented in the cartoons that people grew up on. You've been well represented in TV shows and in movies. And your character has been the equal of the guys in those series. And they held their own, these women characters. So when they complain now about women, how they should get more roles, it's all a false media narrative, making an issue, like I said, out of something that is not an issue, and you have been well represented in the past. And that's the point of this video. The people who control the media and control society have pushed this false idea that women need more representation in cartoons or Hollywood or movies or TV shows and all of this stuff going forward in the future, when it's not even an issue. It was fine in the past. And they did this to further divide the country. But the real outrage of other countries where the women don't have freedom, when they don't have equal rights, when they don't have an equal quality of life or true representation, America is silent on that. The left, the feminist groups, oh, you're not going to see them say anything about that. And if there is an outrage, the real outrage is that they're not fighting for women in other countries who are denied their rights, but they'll pretend American women are denied their rights when they're not. And that is something to talk about. So when they're ready to discuss the women in the Mideast and women in other countries who are not represented or treated well, then we could talk and have that conversation. But if you're going to complain about America, that you're not treated right, or that they need more representation in Hollywood, get out of here. I don't want to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe. Stay safe, my friends, and I will talk to you later.